pronounced its verdict in the 2008 Malegaon blast case, and all 7 accused, including Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur and Colonel Purohit, have been exonerated. Reasons and grounds for this acquittal is lack of evidence, insufficient evidence, and also the court has made a number of observations about the investigation itself. With me is S. Balakrishnan, Executive Editor, Free Press Journal. Welcome. Yeah. Thanks, Bala, for joining us. It's again one of those things, isn't it? Long drawn legal battle, and what
17
comes
years.
of it? 17 years. Yes. Tell us what you make of this verdict.
See, this case, the background is that when the Congress was in power, they started this narrative of Hindu terrorism. And Sharad Pawar, P. Chidambaram and Digvijay Singh, these were the main proponents of this concept of Hindu terrorism. And it was picked up almost on cue by Hemant Karkare, who was heading the anti-terrorism squad of the Maharashtra police. And then they came across this so-called conspiracy, and the bomb blast took place in Malegaon, opposite the masjid. And they pinned it down to Abhinav Bharat, which was supposed to be a Hindu terrorist organization working for the larger interest of creating a Hindu Rashtra and all that. But from day one, the way the ATS went about torturing people, tutoring witnesses and distorting evidence and not doing Panchanama properly. And what is worse, they planted RDX. RDX is a high explosive which is available only with terror organizations and then the army. They say that Colonel Purohit brought it from Kashmir, where he was posted in the intelligence, military intelligence, and he gave it here. But whereas one of the witnesses has said that he was asked to plant the RDS sample in the house of somebody in Nashik. So this is the most cynical kind of investigation that has ever been conducted in India. And what is for the torture? Sadhvi Pragya has gone on record and pointed out unspeakable torture she was subjected to extract confession out of them. And in the case of Colonel Purohit, was a serving military intelligence officer,
which is why it made big headlines.
Exactly.
How can you have a serving officer?
Exactly. He was posted in Kashmir to gather intelligence, and then he was hit by a bullet during the course of his operation. And when he was brought to a isolated house in Lonavala for his interrogation, he was asked by the interrogators as to where he got hit by the bullet in Kashmir. He pointed out to the knee where he got hit, and they told the constable to hammer him at that very spot.
You're saying something very big here. Let me clarify, because you are saying that they were falsely implicated. That's a very serious thing you're saying. You stand by this.
Precisely.
Because what I am reading from the verdict is, and for once I'm differing with you a bit, what I'm reading from the verdict is that there may have been evidence. It's just that the investigating agency failed to collect them.
But who prevented them? But the court has observed that they were tortured. The 7 accused people were tortured. Why you torture them and then make them sign on blank papers? Why did you plant the RDX, which has been confirmed in the order, thing? And what is the most important aspect of the whole thing, Afrida, is that the Defense Ministry, especially the Indian Army, has given an affidavit to this court of Justice Lahoti, in which they say that whatever Colonel Purohit did was entirely as part of his official duty. And they stood by Colonel Purohit, because they said that in the affidavit that at every stage Colonel Purohit is to keep them in the loop regarding the investigation. He had penetrated this so-called group to find out, to gather intelligence, but he himself was dragged into the thing and made a part of it. But on the one hand, the Ministry of Home Affairs, Delhi, they are saying that they are all Hindu terrorists. The whole thing started when the Congress was in power, but the Defense Ministry, even during the Congress time and even after BJP came to power, they said no, Colonel Purohit, what he did, it was totally as part of his official duty. So if military officer performing his duty, how does he become a conspirator? How does he become an accused?
So what I want to ask you is that, of course, they're saying that there is a conspiracy, and even Pragya Singh Thakur said that this case was somewhat, I think Colonel Purohit said this was politically motivated. Somewhere you are also saying that there is merit to believe in that. My point is something different. My point is that the court has simply said that investigation was not good enough, was not thorough enough. And this we saw in the previous case as well of the 2006 train blast. There again, exonerated investigating agencies failed to prove. The court relies on evidence. You are saying that RDX was planted. Again, Bala, you're saying something very
extremely serious. It is part of the proceedings.
Plus, the court says a motorcycle recovery doesn't mean that motorcycle was used. The recovery itself means nothing.
Exactly.
And of course, Pragya Singh Thakur says I had sold it off. Her lawyer said I had sold it off long ago. So the recoveries may have been there, but even that has not clinched the case against the accused.
See, who prevented the ATS from doing its job properly? Nobody prevented. Who prevented the NIA from doing its job? Nobody prevented. And so many witnesses turned hostile. They had more than 300 witnesses. Many of the witnesses, they turned hostile kind of thing. And I had attended some of the hearings in this case. It was pathetic the way the entire the prosecution was conducting itself. It was simply shocking. So I am in the least surprised that Colonel Purohit and the 6 others have been exonerated. What is interesting is that the court has asked for an inquiry into the conduct of the ATS. Why did they behave the way they did?
Because now the accused can also file a complaint for filing of a false case.
Exactly. For torture, for filing false case and ruining their life for 17 years. And apart from that, I think the very concept of a Hindu terrorism which was being talked about by the Congress party, the bottom has been removed from that.
Yeah, but that, even the court has said, terror knows no religion.
That is true. That is true. But what was the motivation in doing this? Whole motivation want to proceed on this false narrative of Hindu terrorism. The bottom has been removed from that. That is an important takeaway from the judgment today.
One last question about, how this is also a commentary on our legal system, on our judicial system. You're saying it's taken 17 years. Why should it take 17 years? The process becomes a punishment. Repeatedly we are seeing
You said it so very right, Afrida. The process has become a punishment. Not only in this case, in the case of 2006 blast also, several other cases. After 3 decades, 4 decades, the so-called judgment is handed on. There is no sense of urgency on the part of the Indian judiciary. It is all kind of Tariq pe Tariq, it goes on. They don't realize they're dealing with human lives.
Despite this being a UAPA case, despite this being dealt by a special NIA court, there is still this delay, and that is what Bala is saying is unacceptable. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Afrida. Thank you.
Justice delayed is justice denied. This becomes a travesty in many ways if the accused indeed were not guilty and if they had to suffer through this. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.